We'd like to welcome all of you to the meeting today. If you would stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, I would appreciate it. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. First of all, we need to do an adoption to the get agenda amendments. So does anybody have any agenda amendments?
None here, Madam Chair.
Commissioner Huxley?
I would just like to pull from the consent calendar item 5 separately, please.
Okay, we'll put that right before E. How's that? Okay, I've got a couple of things. I would like to add proclamations on suicide and bullying. This will be very, very short. This was submitted to me, and I think basically went to the wrong place. It was a mistake. So I am doing this, or trying to do this, as a favor to Mr. Clay, because the bullying and prevention of suicide month is it this month or next month? September. Okay, so I wanted to make sure that it got here before. We did this last year, and it's pretty much a repeat of what was last year. Yes?
Does it need a agenda routing slip in order to put
it was my understanding that if we wanted to put something on the agenda as commissioners, we could, if it's okay with the other commissioners. So I'm asking for your permission to do this.
Fine by me, Madam Chair.
Okay.
We need to
So
follow
since we
policy.
have 2 of the 3,
I didn't hear what Mr. Huxley said.
he said no.
You said no?
We need to follow policy. And I
Okay.
believe policy says that.
Thanks for bringing it up, Madam
agenda
Chair. I
routing
think
slip.
it's a good subject to discuss.
Okay, so why don't we put that, right after presentations.
Did the same thing.
At least you were here on time.
Were you?
Okay, does anybody have any other amendments to the agenda? Okay, hearing none, could I get a motion to approve the agenda as
So moved, Madam
amended?
Chair.
Do we have a
I'll
second?
second.
Any further discussion? Call for the question?
Aye.
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 Is this on?
Okay, so next we've got public comments. Gordon Clay?
Commissioners and community members, for the record, my name is Gordon Clay from Brookings, Oregon. Last year, more people than ever killed themselves in the U.S., nearly 45,000. And likewise in Oregon at 825, of which 98 were youth. Curry County ranks 4th in suicides per capita, which saw 14 people kill themselves last year, the highest rate ever, 3 more than in 2016. Curry County law enforcement dealt with 102 suicidal subjects and 26 mental subjects through July 31st of this year. Our goal this year is to get all community members, businesses, and organizations involved in suicide prevention. We've distributed over 20,000 semicolon buttons, 2,000 yellow wristbands with the 741-741 crisis text number embossed in them, and several thousand crisis text line wallet cards with the youth warning signs printed on the back through schools and youth-oriented services and therapists. Since most youth in crisis won't phone a crisis center, they do text, and they need to learn this number. We've distributed over 15,000 semicolon wallet cards that you can find at 114 locations in Curry County. The stand that we have have had for 2 years. It says, "Are you okay?" And it's got the suicide cards in it. But we're in the process of changing to our black and white zero attempts logo, promoting Suicide Prevention Month as September. We ask everyone to find at least one of the 153 locations in Curry and Del Norte County. Tell their management that you appreciate making the semicolon cards available, and take at least one for your wallet. Check out zeroattempts.org to learn what the warning signs are. The more you know, the more you'll be aware of how many of your friends and possibly family members are in or close to crisis, and start by giving them a semicolon wallet card and asking, "Are you okay?" Then offer to be a good listener if they ever want to talk through what's going on. In your packet, Commissioners, I've included Suicide Prevention Month ideas for action, handout plus guidelines for individuals wanting to help reduce suicide risks in their community, and a safety plan template that we hope every individual will fill out and keep handy for their own possible use sometime down the road. You never know. Suicide is not inevitable for anyone. We know how to end suicides, and all it takes is everyone to be part of the solution by breaking the stigma and talking about their direct or indirect experience with suicide. This will help us reach our goal of zero attempts. I want to thank the Curry County Commissioners for being active in this. I want to say that I believe to get on the agenda, it takes 2 of 3 commissioners. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gordon.
Thanks, Gordon.
Karen Kennedy?
Hi, Karen Kennedy, 95676 Quail Mountain Road, Gold Beach. This morning, I appreciate you allowing public comment. I'm here to voice my concern over the looming strike by some county workers and the impact it would have to our county in general. I'm a local business owner. I own the RE/MAX office here in Gold Beach. I'm a former director of human resources with the health district, and I'm a current board member, so I understand all aspects of this and how the inner workings work on employee negotiations. My current occupation, I interact with employees that are members of the SEIU on a regular basis. I work with building, planning, tax assessors, and recording offices frequently. I can tell you that you have a very seasoned, knowledgeable, and a highly professional staff in these areas. I'd like to understand the reasoning behind not working together with them to come up with a fair and reasonable solution. Retaining of employees of value should be a high priority, given the cost of replacing a work staff. The Society for Human Resources Management estimated in 2006 the cost to replace an employee was $4,129. The costs include advertising for employees, interviewing, screening, hiring, and training. It takes a new hire approximately 1 to 2 years to become proficient at their position. The estimated cost per person to negotiate and agree upon the presented contract for our county employees is $4,350 per year. Please consider the true cost to the county when debating the contract presented by the employees. The strike will impact most businesses in our area: building and trade contractors, realtors, title companies, lenders, hardware and building supply stores, as well as special districts like our hospital, water and fire districts, and the general public that will have some services restricted and stopped. Building and planning are key revenue producing departments, especially at this time of year. We have multiple people with permits out asking for planning clearances. All these produce tax dollars and income stemming from new builds and improvements. That raises tax values. Fiscal responsibility was a platform that most of you ran on. Please use this opportunity to prove you understand the impact this decision makes to our county and our community. The decisions will affect not just the employees, but hundreds of community members. I urge both sides to be fair and reasonable and come together for the benefit of our citizens. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Kennedy?
Yes.
I just want to assure you that any part of these negotiations taking place, I've been on the opposite side of these two. Thank you.
Brett Curtis?
Good morning, County Commissioners, community members. My name is Brett Curtis. I've lived in Curry County for 15 years, currently down on Chrissy Circle in Brookings. I am also a business owner. I have 17 staff members, 2 real estate offices in Brookings, but serve the entire county. Although I represent them, I probably also represent the other 120 licensed professionals in the real estate industry that serve the entire county. I probably represent the various lenders that work with buyers and sellers that are purchasing property or refinancing or getting lines of credit. Each of them would probably say the same thing I'm about to say. Also represent the title companies that work in this area, but probably most importantly are the thousands of people that buy and sell real estate in Curry County each year. Many of them moving out, many of them moving in. And the perception that may come across if our county services cease or slow to a rate where when we have that conversation with a buyer that says, your loan's ready to fund, seller's agreed, here's your closing date, but your documents to record may sit with the county for days or weeks on end before we actually record, the perception that may have for people thinking about living here, I think would be enormous. And it would be negative. And we could not overcome it because the conversation would be something like this. Yeah, our county employees striked, our commissioners and the county employees couldn't come up with a fair and equitable solution. And so in this county, unlike anywhere else in the country, we don't record the same day we fund. And that's unique. I just would encourage each of you as our representatives. I know you have an enormous responsibility, an enormous obligation to represent us, but representing me and all those I just referenced, I would encourage you to come up with a solution. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
David Barnes?
Good morning. I also am concerned about the county employees going out on strike, but I've read stuff in the paper, I've read the stuff that's been online, and Mr. Schroeder, I think that you're forgetting you have 3 county employees all on salary sitting next to you that can also be put to work should the people go out on strike before you have to hire scabs. Commissioner Boyce is a businessman. He can work in your Human Resources Department or possibly over in the clerk's office. Commissioner Gold is a mathematician. She can maybe help out in the tax assessor's office. Commissioner Huxley, I don't know what his background is, but maybe the road department can use him to fill some potholes for him, or maybe he can work around here as a janitor, emptying waste baskets and cleaning toilets or something like that.
I'll do the bathrooms. Sorry.
So before you go hire scabs, look to these people. They failed us during our last county emergency last summer, 2 out of 3 of them. Put them to work this time, and they serve the county, make them do their jobs. Thank you.
Jim Cullen? Just to let you know, I've already expressed willingness to do that, Mr. Barnes.
Thank you.
You might want to be specific at some point what you're willing to do.
Good morning, Commissioners. Jim Cullen, Curry County Assessor, here for a public comment. I am here today because I'm concerned that you make appropriate decisions, not only for Curry County and our citizens, but also for our trained and valuable employees within the SEIU bargaining unit. As an elected official, I'm concerned that the actions you're taking regarding negotiations with SEIU may cause a liability for our county. I ask that you vet your actions with our county's insurance provider and LGPI, as all department heads and elected officials have had to do in the past regarding almost any employee action, and not just take the advice from Commissioner Huxley's personal attorney. As you know, I and other department heads are concerned that county functions will be compromised in the event of a strike. I appreciate the fact that you, Commissioner Gold, are volunteering to serve to help out departments. Frankly, I don't think you'd be of much use within the assessment and tax office because you're not trained to perform any of the functions that we do. I request that you exercise your duty of care in this matter and not simply accept the advice that you're predisposed to hear. I hope that you will seek and listen to further opinions, specifically the county's insurance provider and LGPI, who have experts in employee relations. Thank you.
Thank you. Connie Hunter?
Madam Chair, just for the
Yes.
record, the lawyer representing the county was hired by the board and is not acting as Tom Huxley's personal attorney.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Boyce?
we know that that attorney worked personally for Commissioner Huxley in the past, and so there's at least the appearance of an ethics violation here and a conflict of interest. So I didn't hire that attorney, and I was very much opposed to it. Different emotions I understand through this whole thing, but I'm trying to control the emotion of anger I have, because we don't have to be here. None of these people had to be here today if we'd
Okay,
have done our
moving on,
job.
Connie Hunter?
Don't interrupt me, please. I was almost done. Thank you. You always interrupt me.
Take one, pass it down. Thank you. Take one, pass it down. Thank you.
Thanks.
My name is Connie Hunter, and I live in South Curry County at 1310 English Court. Thank you for allowing me to talk today in public comments regarding a request to the Board of Commissioners. I'm requesting support in the form of 3 letters on behalf of our VA Healthcare Summit, and you have the information that I handed to you. Mitch Sparks, ODVA, is the director. Cameron Smith used to be ODVA director, is over the Department of Consumer and Business Services. And also I'd like to include Alex Campbell in those letters of invitation. What we hope to do is not leave the state out of a very important summit. At the VA Healthcare Summit, you're already a community partner just by virtue of having Tony Bowdy come out to the event, and Commissioner Court has accepted an opportunity to speak and introduce a few people. The VA Healthcare Summit will make the case that we need to address the problems in Curry County with a pilot project. Again, I've handed you the VA Mission Act summary that I think was also in your mental health packets. The VA Mission Act provides that we sometimes have opportunities that are rare and unusual, and this is one of them. That VA Mission Act will fund, Congress will fund 10 pilot projects, and some of those pilot projects will be rural communities. The reason that we're having this convening is to try and put forward the case that we deserve to have that pilot program. We sometimes feel like the redheaded stepchild under the stairs, so doing our part from our end is critical, realizing that communication is a two-way street. Building the right connections is challenging, but we have to be bold and do it anyway. The connections we have to make are with both the state and the feds. That means the VA, so having everyone in the room is critical for the discussions that we are going to have. For example, doing business with the VA is only part of the solution, since only 1 in 3 veterans are in the VA benefit system, so a significant number of veterans may be on OHP. It is a cost savings to the state to work with the VA and local communities. Local communities benefit when there are opportunities to work with local providers at the VA. Keeping healthcare dollars local is the same as shopping local, so we'll also make those connections with the VA. I also want to reach out to Dan Bratton at some point, because the VA could, with the state, provide underwriting or support for those memberships to CalOR. So that's another thing that we want to discuss. I hope you'll support our efforts and there's a draft of the letter that I helped with, but thank you so much, County Administrator, for putting a rush on that. I couldn't have had more cooperation and support from the county at this point, so thank you all.
Thank you.
Just for clarification on that letter, if you choose to sign it, I will leave 3 copies, one for each of the individuals to be sent out to sign later after the meeting.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Boyce?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Connie was at the VBA monthly meeting last night, and Gordon, they talked about a gentleman that just committed suicide and one that almost did, and there was not a dry eye in the place. And a lot of people there, a lot of families, even some young people. It was just incredible to see. So I know you'd have been there if you could have
If I hadn't
scheduled
had
in,
this
but
workload.
they missed you. And thank you very much both for your awareness and help on this. It is huge, and again, especially in our county.
Okay, that's the end of public comments. Moving on to the consent calendar. Do I have a motion to approve the consent calendar as amended with item 5 omitted? Do we have a
A
motion?
motion to approve the consent calendar agenda item D, items 1, 2, 3, and 4 as presented.
Do I have a second?
Second, Madam Chair.
Any further discussion? Call for the question.
Aye.
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 Okay, one item was taken out of the consent agenda, the minutes from the workshop of 5/31/17. Commissioner Huxley?
Yes, I was not present at that meeting, therefore I will not vote on them.
Okay, or you would
That was the
abstain?
reason. I'll abstain. That was my reason for removing it. I was not there.
Okay. So do we have a motion to approve the minutes from the workshop 5/31?
Motion to approve the minutes.
Okay, I'll second that. Call for the question.
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
Okay. Then we have the bully and suicide proclamations, and I know this came at the last minute, but these are basically the same as were presented last year with the exception of the date and okayed by Council Huddle. And I had a chance to read these over, so.
So, Madam Chair, are you looking for
I'm
a
looking
motion
for a
to
motion to
approve the
approve.
resolution?
Well, they're
Two.
proclamations, resolutions, yeah.
Okay.
Why don't we do them separately? The resolution proclaiming September as Suicide Prevention Awareness Month.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Call for the question?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, the second resolution is on the Bullying Prevention Month, which is going to be October 2018. Do we have a motion to approve this resolution?
I'll move, Madam Chair.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Do we have any discussion? Call for the question?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so we will, John Jesuit, I guess you've got copies of those. We'll be signing those later. Okay, next, administrative actions and appointments. First of all, the equipment purchase of the CAT backhoe loader. Richard Christensen?
Hello, Madam Chair and fellow commissioners. Richard Christensen,
I hope you're
Loadmaster.
not offended, my goodness. Everybody's left, I'm kidding. We have to have a little bit of humor once in a while.
I agree. I'm here today to get approval to purchase 3 pieces of equipment. The first one is a 420 F2 backhoe loader with pavement breaker, trench compactor, and a trailer for $177,000. The brief background, this equipment will replace a worn-out old 2002 backhoe loader used to replace driveway and crossroad storm culverts. countywide. Over the last 10 years, the road department has been aggressively replacing and upgrading its entire storm drain system. The road department rates its culverts as good, fair, and poor. As of 2018, 75% of our culverts are rated as good. The other 25% are rated fair or poor, and we're aggressively replacing the poor culverts. That's 875 culverts we're still chasing.
So what happens if they remain poor?
They fail, you get sinkholes, or could have property damage or slope failures.
I just wanted everybody to know that that was the case. Thanks.
Welcome. And attached in this packet is the quote that has national procurement pricing with our trailer quotes at that pricing and our loader. There's also a copy of our quote form and cooperative procurement and my 5-year equipment plan, and also the approved budget that was approved by the budget committee to purchase this equipment this year. And if you have any questions.
Anybody have any questions? Commissioner Boyce?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm gonna oppose this at this time with the Agnes Road, the Forest Service, the fires, the strikes, all that we're dealing with. Things seem to be in a bit of an uproar. None of this equipment would come soon enough to affect, I don't think, generally to expect or to impact the work on that road. And until we kind of get through this month in fire season, the looming strike, I'm going to ask you and your staff, and I know that I understand that you sent an assessment crew up today to see how we could at least preliminarily add to that road or repair it in the anticipation of the traffic we're going to get with the Forest Service, whether they go to Gold Beach or they set up camp due to the Klondike fire at Agnes. I think I'm just going to ask, and this is a lot of money to be spent in a few months, and I think we need to spread that over 2 or 3 years. At least that's my feeling right now. You've done a great job, but I don't want to spend this kind of money right now. It just, my instincts say not good. Thank you.
So if we were to postpone this for a month, would the road conditions change, or would it cause the bids to be different, or what would be the fallout?
All the quotes I have obtained are from earlier this year, and they all say 30 days, but they agreed to extend them.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how long that grace period would last, but they've already been extended several months in some cases. The impacts to the team, we would keep using our old equipment and maintaining and repairing our old equipment and using it heavily. Really has no impacts to what I'm trying to do to assist the U.S. Forest Service with repairs to Agnes Road.
Mm-hmm.
Because
so that wouldn't make a difference.
That's not storm drainage. That is mostly asphalt repairs with other equipment.
Commissioner Huxley?
Are these restricted funds for the road department?
Yes.
I believe they
Yes.
are. I'm just
Yes.
asking the question.
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought. These are restricted. It's a excellently presented documentation, memo, explanations, justification, with restricted funds that may not be used elsewhere other than for the road department. So I absolutely
So are you making
support
a motion?
a motion to support the recommendation.
Do we have a second? I'll second that. Administrator Clark?
It'd be my recommendation. That's all right. It'd be my recommendation that you approve this. I think when you're looking at bids, it's not unheard of for companies, once they've been set aside for a bid, to come back with a higher price a few months later. If we're going to eventually purchase this piece of equipment, and that's not in question, my recommendation would be to purchase it now versus purchasing it later at a higher price.
Any further discussion?
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Boyce?
2 things quickly. Have you been to the Agnes Road lately? And I think you have.
Yes.
you know how serious that is. Okay.
Yes.
And would the Forest Service agreement, if they're going to use that road considerably in the next couple of months, short of a major rainstorm come in, how would that impact, or would it impact your decision, or alter your decision on this equipment in any way?
Assisting the U.S. Forest Service with their maintenance would not impact any of these equipment purchases, my decision to move forward with them. The impact of assisting the U.S. Forest Service is to the extent their road has degraded over the years, and it's in horrible shape. A lot of people have blown out tires, broken axles, and the concern is right now that it would be a huge impact to my team and our schedule, because it's so bad, it may take us 2-3 weeks if we did have an IGA that was approved by the Board of Commissioners and the county administrator to do that work for them. It may be over $100,000. This is just really loose. And so it would impact the road crew, but we're talking a major fire. We're talking maybe something to the extent of like the Checo bar fire last year. And so we're just doing our due diligence to be proactive, to be available to do that, to help if we can. And so, you know, maybe there'd be a private contractor that could help them as well, but we're proactively reaching out to the U.S. Forest Service and evaluating the road for the minimum repairs that needed to get a fire truck down that road safely. So that's where we're at.
We just got an email back from Merv George about that. He says he's assigning IC Tom Kurth to respond to our offer to see if they want our help. And again, it may not be the county road department that is tasked with this. It may be a private contractor that'll be assigned to task with this. So we're just saying, if they need our help, we need an IGA, and we'd be willing to do what we can. But they haven't decided if they want us or somebody else to work on that.
Okay, but they would pay either way, I would think.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Commissioner
Just,
Huxley?
if you would, identify the authority and the position of this gentleman that just emailed you.
So Merv George is the forest supervisor for the Rogue River Siskiyou National Forest, and Tom Kurth is, I would assume, an incident commander, although I don't know, he doesn't have his title on here. So,
Right. So these are, what my point is, this is high management in the Forest Service.
Yeah,
that's
George
trying to
is
work
the guy
and
for
react
everybody.
quickly. He is the top
Yes.
individual in that
Yes.
area.
The second person you mentioned is the Type 1 leader, Team 1 leader.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
And
Any further discussion? Commissioner Boyce?
thank you. I think I accept or understand that you're really aware of the urgency and what could happen any day. You know, last year the Checo bar went how many miles in 3 days, and so we don't seem to have the east winds right now, and of course we all have our fingers crossed that won't change in the weather patterns in the next day or two, but that could change anything decisions we make, and so we need to be prepared for that. So I hope that is the County Road Department's absolute top priority, and I hope that the Forest Service knocks on your door to get that work done. That would be my preference right now.
Yes,
Thank you.
I am totally aware, because I lived through the Checo
No,
bar
I know
fire
you are,
and managed at the city of Brookings, so I know the concerns for our community.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. We've had discussion. Let's call for the question.
Aye.
Aye.
No.
Okay.
Thank you.
And did you want to talk about the road grinder or grader next?
Yes, please. Okay, the next piece of equipment is to purchase a new motor road grader. A brief background, this heavily used piece of equipment is used to maintain 24 miles of county gravel roads and ditches on 200 plus miles of roads, of paved roads. It is also used for emergency asphalt blade patching, like we're proposing to do with U.S. Forest Service, and snow plowing. Like we had this last year, we had like 4 feet of snow up on Gardner Ridge. This year we have a trade-in value of our old road grader of $104,000 towards a new road grader of $284,000. So I have in my budget
approved budget the $180,000 to buy this new equipment with the trade-in. In the last 3 years, our current road grader has had a fair amount of downtime, causing over $30,000 in maintenance and repairs. There have also been costly repairs to the brakes and transmission. In this packet are the road grader quotes and the National Cooperative Procurement, my 5-year equipment plan, the approved cap outlay budget for this equipment, and also copies of 3 years of shop maintenance and repair costs of $31,000.
I just have one question. I know you're talking about downtime, and this would mean employees also. So did you include in this cost the amount of wages and so forth that you have to pay because of this downtime, or is it just the repairs?
No, that is not part of this cost. This is just the repairs and maintenance.
But that is a cost, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
It's a huge cost.
Any other discussion on this item? Commissioner Huxley?
I'll just say again, compliment, you know, we've been back a couple times now, but I think you've done a superb job as far as the documentation and the justification.
Thank you.
Yeah, if you can get by him, pretty good.
Well, he's teaching me, so I'm working on it. I'm listening.
Well done. Well done.
That's important.
Well
Detail's
deserved.
important. Okay, any other discussion? Do we have a motion on the floor?
Chair, I'll motion to approve the equipment purchase for the grader, which is item F7 as presented.
Do we have a second? I'll second that. Any further discussion? Call for the question?
Aye.
Aye.
No.
Okay, next on the agenda is equipment purchase of the Crefo crack sealer.
Yes, this equipment was on the previous Roadmaster's 5-year equipment plan as well, and we've never had this type of equipment. And in this packet, I have why we need this, some attachments, why we need this equipment for education. But just brief background, the road department needs this equipment to efficiently and effectively maintain county roads. This equipment could help save county millions of dollars in the long term. The county has 200 plus miles of paved roads that are rated as good, fair, and poor. 41% of our roads are rated as good, 57 as fair, and 2% as poor. Over the last 10 years, the county has been overlaying their roads at a very aggressive rate with an average cost of $1.2 million a year. We cannot sustain this aggressive overlay schedule due to the limits of our current road fund and our income and resources. Crack sealing is a cost-effective way to extend the life of our fair-rated roads and help bring them back up to a good rating. In this attachment is there's state pricing with the brochure of the equipment, a copy of our quote form and cooperative procurement policy, my 5-year equipment plan, and approved 2018-19 cap outlay budget. One of the things that we did for this in your packet, I did a pie chart of the good roads, the fair roads, and the poor roads, and by maintaining our fair roads with these expensive $1.2 million a year over the last 10 years we've been spending this, we'll run out of road funds in no time. And so the idea is to aggressively protect these roads with maintenance.
Okay, does anybody have any questions? Commissioner Boyce?
Yeah, a minute ago asking about the urgency. I didn't in any way mean to imply that you weren't Johnny on the spot, front and center, and I appreciated that very much and the chance to work with you. I'm just hearing from some people around the county that go, slow it down just a little bit till we see where the next 2 months are going. That's my position, and thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have a motion to purchase the Crefo crack sealer?
Chair, I'll motion to approve as recommended agenda item F8, the equipment to purchase that Crafco crack sealer.
I must have mispronounced that. I apologize. I'm not in the road business. Okay, so a second for that motion. I second that. Any further discussion? Call for the question.
Aye.
Aye.
No.
Okay, next.
Just
Yes.
for what it's worth, I just got an email that is official that we're going to have a Type 2 team at the fairgrounds. So it's going to be, we're trying to anticipate which way is it going to come, the fire. So thank you.
Let me know if we need to open up that back access road again. We'll have to bring
Oh,
some
yeah.
traffic plates out.
And thank
get
you
that
again
done.
for that, Roadmaster Christensen. That was great work.
When, just for curiosity, when did we take the road out?
We
Well, they
took
just put the log back.
we took the traffic plates out for the ditch.
Yep.
And put a log back across the road after the county fair was over.
Yeah.
But you left the rock that was in there.
Oh yeah, it would just take a short while to move that log and
Yeah.
put the traffic plates back in.
Okay, we'll work with Nikki to make sure that that's done on a timely basis so we can have a good traffic pattern in that area.
Thank you.
Thanks, Richard. Next, we have the purchase and sale agreement with SWAC for Brookings Head Start Building. Administrator Schroeder or Council Huddle, did you want to talk?
I will say that'll be Council Huddle.
Council Huddle, you want to
Oh.
talk to that?
Sure. So this is the Brookings Head Start project. This is the next step in the project. If you recall, we did appraisal. The value came in a little higher. So to switch money from one part of the grant to the other, we did a grant amendment, and that was just recently in the last couple of meetings. And so this is the next step to take the money that we have put into the purchase and acquisition and get a purchase and sale with SWAC. We've passed an environmental inspection period. There were no comments, so the money's ready to be released. So we do the purchase and sale and the amount identified, and then we open an escrow and we try to get the funds and exchange the funds for the deed. And then the next step will be have the architect do plans, and we do construction bid and keep moving down the road. So really, I think the board is very familiar with the project. This is just the next step unless there's any questions.
Do we have any questions, Council Huddle? Okay, so do we have a motion to approve that purchase and sale agreement for the Brookings Head Start Building?
I'll make that motion, Madam Chair.
Do we have a second? I'll second that. Do we have any further discussion? Hearing none, call for the question.
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
Okay. And we're going to be having a public hearing at 1 p.m., so we'll finish off the meeting. We've got announcements, it looks like. A is vacancies. Ambulance Service Area Advisory Committee, law enforcement position. We have that. Yes.
Could you be specific, or what are vacancies? What vacancies are there? It just.
Are we talking about the employment
question.
vacancies?
We need to know what their vacancies are.
I think, John, I think we were just talking about the vacancy, the ambulance and the parks and the mountains. I guess there's a mistype on that. The vacancy should have just been a subtitle, and the other should have been after it.
Oh, okay, so there's vacancies on the Ambulance Service Committee, Parks Committee is taking applications, Mountain Drive Special Road District term that expires December 31st. Yes.
Okay, then what about the Budget Committee?
We probably ought to add that to it.
Yes.
There's a
Yes. Yep.
vacancy on the Budget Committee.
Yep.
Then we have September 3rd is Labor Day. The county offices will be closed.
I have
Yes.
a question. Are there vacancies on the planning committee?
Bob Morrow resigned.
Right.
So
But we went to 7 from 9,
That's a
so
good point. And then I've also heard we have
I'm not sure, though. It's a
Okay.
good question.
All
Yeah, I'm not sure Carolyn would have to weigh in on that.
But I think it's really important that we,
Okay, we
any
need to get that.
vacancies, we get them out there so the
Yeah.
Okay.
public knows that.
I know he resigned, but I know there was like an
Yeah.
extra application, so maybe,
But then there'd be an appointment action.
Yeah.
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 Okay.
Commissioner Boyce?
We will look into that.
Administrator Schroeder, have we had any Parks Committee applications come in yet?
JJ?
No, nothing for parks, but we have anticipated a nomination for the ambulance service, Mountain Drive Special Road District.
Okay, so we're still looking for people for parks.
So we'll work on that. Thank you.
Actually, I
Thanks,
talked to a
John.
couple of people and encouraged them to be on that committee, so.
Yeah, that committee basically wouldn't be eligible to be seated until 60 days after it was formed, so that would be, I don't know, sometime in October, I thought.
Okay.
Also, an application has been received for the budget committee.
Okay.
Okay.
Good.
September 5th is a general meeting at 10 a.m. in the Commissioners' Hearing Room. September 19th is general meeting at 10 a.m. Commissioners' Hearing Room. So, County Administrator Schroeder, you're going to give some updates now.
Yeah, a couple updates here. So the Curry County Voices programming discussion. In your packet, you'll see programs basically that have been discussed with the organizing group of that and run by Corp Council also concerning what programs we should expect to see in these things. So they have things at the library, the healthcare programming, special districts, fire districts, ports. County departments would have availability to have programming for educational purposes to try to educate the citizens as what we're doing as far as emergency management, parks, veterans, economic development, showcasing local tourism area concentrations, 4-H, Rotary basketball, other types of activities, Indian Creek fish hatchery. So these are just some of the things as they go forward. I know Carl King will be working on this, and I'm sure as we get into this over the next months and years, we may amend this list as we see a need to further expand the programming and the skills of the recorders come into play.
Okay.
Just informational purposes.
Good. Well, we appreciate your work on this, Carl. Did you have anything else to report?
Yeah, there's a survey report you just can read. The other thing, code enforcement, there was a property down in Crestline Loop, down in Brookings. If you might remember a few weeks ago, there was a group of citizens that came down and helped clean that property up. The property owner paid for a dumpster, and they had a group of 15 people come in and help clean the property. I had issued a warning letter to the property owner stating if he didn't clean up the property, I was going to issue a citation. I went down and re-inspected the property on Sunday. It has passed my inspection, and I forwarded a letter back to the property owner stating that he needs to keep it in compliance.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Huxley?
On the subject of code enforcement, I know you had mentioned that now there's an Excel file or something that's being kept.
Yes, we're just we've been, as staff, we've been going back and forth on how to track that. We do have a number of different properties that people have expressed interest in having the county come take a look at. I know Commissioner Boyce and Council Huddle are going to Brookings tomorrow, or Harbor, to inspect property that has some issues. And so they're going down tomorrow, and we will be tracking this so all of the staff have access on a shared drive. So when we do get either calls or inquiries, we can track them, and eventually when we get a code enforcement officer, they'll have a whole list of stuff to do.
Is that one that was discussed 2 weeks ago? I believe his name was John, I want to say Stover, Mr.
Yes.
Stover. Is he on the list, or has he been contacted?
He's on the list,
or-
and that'll be actually looked at tomorrow.
Okay, great.
Yep.
Thank you.
And then there's another one that I'm asking them to go down and take a look at also, so.
I have a follow-up. Did you know, the property you looked at was brought to the board's attention by the neighbors. Did you follow up with them and let them know? I mean, that to your satisfaction. Otherwise, I mean, are they going to come back, or I'm just wondering, like, closing the loop. Was there?
I actually don't have email contacts for the neighbors.
Okay.
I did go down there, and I stopped, and there wasn't anybody who came out. The first time I did the inspection, took photos and issued the warning letter, people just naturally came out and visited with me, but I didn't collect any addresses or names of the individuals. So,
Thanks. If I could follow
Council
up.
Holland?
Well, while we're on the topic of code enforcement, the other thing I'll be doing as I go down to the Brookings Harbor area tomorrow with Commissioner Boyce is I'm going to be meeting, if you remember the Hamilton Lane, just an update on that. We commenced a suit to abate. And at the very last day before we could apply for a default or get awarded a default, a lawyer appeared on behalf of the estate, and so I'll be meeting with him down at the property tomorrow to talk about trying to resolve that as well. So I'm trying to combine the trips down there. And then on the Benham Lane, if you remember, that was another one. We thought we could obtain that property through tax foreclosure, but we think the lender who has a mortgage on the property, even though they haven't foreclosed it themselves to become the owner that we can enforce against, they kept the taxes current, so we couldn't take that through tax foreclosure and clean it up ourselves without any court action. So we have to do court action. I've contracted that out to outside counsel, Shayla Kudlak. And then the other one, you've heard Lucas Lane. That one was, it's in the process of being purchased by a third party who will clean it up, and the neighbors are both pleased and aware of the purchaser and that they're going to be owning it and cleaning it up. So that's the three that I've been working on prior to this, just letting you know.
And in our spreadsheet, by the way, we are going to, not only will we have the property that we're addressing, we're also going to be tracking the complainant so that we can close the loop on somebody when something does happen. So we are, going forward, we'll be keeping track of that information.
That's good. I'm just going to ask Council Huddle one question. When the bank pays the taxes, that does not make them responsible for the cleanup or anything until they foreclose. Is that correct?
Right. We don't, again, that's correct, just bottom line. What they do is they keep it out of our hands. They just keep it in this limbo status. But, yeah. Yeah.
Is this regarding the properties?
Yes.
Come on up. He's talking about some of these
Mr.
properties.
Green.
Hi, my name's Jim Green. I'm a real estate agent with Century 21 Agate Realty in Brookings. And I just want to let you know I'm working on the Hamilton Lane property. And as of this morning, it's my understanding that we do have a verbal approval for that cleanup of that property to get underway. And money has been wired for a 50% deposit for that work to be completed by McLennan Excavation. And we also have verbal approval on a property sale for that property.
Good.
And so we expect to...
Well, as long as the money's there, that makes me feel a little better. The verbal approvals, I'm not so sure about. So.
Well, we're hopeful to have everything in writing by the end of the day today on the sale.
That's good.
And
if it's not in writing, it's not.
Nope.
Hate to say it.
Maybe I'll have something tomorrow.
Okay,
after
good.
the meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner updates. Commissioner Huxley, you're first. Do you have anything?
Yeah, I just have one, and it's basically the new, his name was referenced here earlier, Merv George, the new head individual of the Forest Department, has been giving some real good reports on status.
Yeah, I agree.
They've and apparently what was really interesting, you know, as far as it turned on the August 8th, he concluded one paragraph because he was giving detail what they've done, what they're trying to do, and he says, "I simply do not have time or the energy to entertain folks who are simply looking to put a wedge in the middle of our firefighters as they are working hard to get the fires out." So it was end of subject, let's keep on business. But I think he's been doing them, you know, certainly his communication, real good job.
I'll have to
Real
agree
good
with
job.
that. I did send him an email to that effect.
Yeah.
So.
Then those are my only comments.
Okay, Commissioner Boyce?
Supervisor George, yeah, I met with him probably a half a dozen times. We're going to meet again on Friday. The public is welcome to attend. Right now, I don't know if it's going to be the senior center or the public library. The difference between his approach and attitude at fighting forest fires, in this case for Curry County's forest fire, over and above a wildland fire, but I'm absolutely convinced. I told the folks at Agnes a few days ago that I believe the Forest Service is doing absolutely everything they can to get this fire out. I may be wrong on that, but it won't be for lack of his effort or commitment to that end. So I would encourage the public to come. It'll be 11 o'clock on Friday, and I'll make sure that John Jesuit and staff knows that the location on that. Relating to the strike as our #1 issue right now, I'm just going to make sure the public understands, as I said earlier in this meeting, that my desire has been way before now to come to the table and meet with the 17, 18, 19 employees that are at odds with the lack of consideration they've had over the last 7, 8, 9 years. And I support them, and I will do everything I can to avoid a strike and put the county in the best possible position to get our taxing districts, the libraries, the rural fire departments, etc., all the help that and the funds coming back to them that they need. So it's a sad day for Curry County. I go around the state and meet various people, and their jaws drop when they see how we allowed this. We paid an attorney so far to date around $15,000, $16,000, I think, and it's just again, I want the public to know that that was over my objections, and it's just appalling that it wasn't necessary to get something in a good faith effort to avoid where we're headed. And I don't know where this is headed in the next 30 days. It's going to be our responsibility to do our very best to keep a lid on this and encourage people not to do anything irrational. And you know, I've got a list here of issues that I'd like to read, Madam Chair, that I've been working on for several months, and frankly, issues that I feel like I've had very little help from this board. So bear with me, I will abbreviate, but it's 2 pages of how this county's been hit in the last 10, 12 years. If you start with the county road, the infrastructure, the damage due to the fires that we've had, trying to catch up there, potential for log supply shortages to our 2 mills that employ 500 people, because it's all burned up, or at least a greater portion than we would have ever anticipated if we'd have been in this seat 2 years ago. The invasive species, I mentioned that last meeting, I think a month ago. It is just staggering with the pampas grass and all the rest of it. And I need help on that to put the county in the best position also to combat those species that are, they just seem to do so incredibly well in our climate and in the area. Sport and commercial fishing, the severe restrictions we dealt with there, condition of Highway 101. You see, it has been proved a lot between Brookings and Port Orford, just waiting for the next big storm. So we need to also have the county be aware of that and how we can work with ODOT to best to just get the best results on their efforts there. The public relations due to the summer fire smoke, the perception outside of our area that we're full of smoke. I was on Radio Medford this morning and encouraged them with to come this way. We'll keep trying to take good care of them. Continued severe reduced ONC and U.S. Forest Service timber receipts coming to our county. If you go back 2015, the harbor sinkhole, tsunami 2011, and where I'm going, Madam Chair, with this is just to make sure people understand this collective list is not a conclusive list, but no county in the state has dealt with the amount of issues that we have that have set us back, and that's why I ran for commissioner. I thought maybe I could make a difference, still do, in the long run, I hope, the long term. The Brookings Harbor debts, again, the sinkhole and the tsunami of 2011. Our schools need help, especially, well, don't need to be specific on any of them. They all need our help and community support. The absolute sheer amount of timber that we lost the Chetco Bar fire when we were able only to harvest 4,000 acres of 173,000 that burned. And I think that with the work we're doing with Supervisor George over time, he will hopefully simplify the NEPA process, and all that's related to that. But as you look at the fires out there now, the Taylor and the Klondike specifically, I think we're looking pretty good right now, but it could change, as you well know, any minute. Talking to Riley Smith, our surveyor, the amount of work the county's going to need to recoup on the burn survey monuments. We've certainly spent a little bit of time, but haven't had a lot of progress on the Curry emergency communication towers. That's a huge, that might be in the top 5 of the issues that the county's dealing with. The industrial growing of marijuana. And there's little funds available for reforestation on the burn. So the county needs to take a progressive position on that in challenging the Forest Service to get their seedlings, to get the money needed to reforest that for future generations, and to hold the soil. You know, it's such a complicated issue. But reforestation certainly starts the process of healing and recovery. Curry County employment, it's the highest of the 36 counties in Oregon. Maybe the top priority, and I do have some positive news to report here. Madam Chair, South Curry Emergency Medical Facility, there's a group forming that's going to try and raise the $1.2 to $1.3 million to get that emergency room open. So I'm very excited about that, and I think they'll be effective. And it's just a project that is critically important to the county. Last one, and again, not a conclusive list, the Lobster Creek fire destruction. Council Huddle has put us in a good position to make sure that we are dotting our I's, crossing our T's on recovering to the very best of our ability and getting the facts of that entire situation and making sure the county is in good shape for the future renting of that facility. That's all I have, thank you. And I have copies of this if you want it. It's rough draft, but it's something I'm always adding on to the list.
Please.
Originally it was set up 4 or 5 months ago to try and qualify Curry County for a federal disaster declaration, but because we didn't lose well, there's a variety of reasons. The main one was we didn't lose enough homes. 9 didn't qualify us, nor did the loss of timber or the potential future revenue, unfortunately. But I shall remain diligent and hope that that can change over time, working with Senator Merkley and Senator Wyden's staff on getting them to recognize how hard this county's been hit and what our priorities, in my view, should be. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. I attended a Curry County Public Transit Service District meeting yesterday, and I need to let you know that there is new state transportation improvement funds. This is STIF that is being started and is being funded by a tax of 0.001% of all monies that are earned by Oregon workers in Oregon. These funds will be used to provide improvements to the public transportation in the state. Curry County could receive as much as $227,000 and a minimum of $150,000 to improve public transportation in our county. A plan needs to be submitted by the Transit District in order to receive the funds, and Curry County Advisory Committee will be doing this and hopefully submitting this application by November 1st. Now, here's where you need to listen. The Oregon Secretary of State office will be checking with commissioners in all counties to make sure that they are aware of these funds. So I'm making you aware, and I'm going to give you a copy of this. I will keep you updated on the progress of the Curry County Transit Service Advisory Committee. So let me just pass these out. And we will be not adjourning this meeting, but we will, yes.
Sorry, Madam Chair. I was hoping to, and I know Connie Hunter is still here and Commissioner Boyce, had some questions about the VA Healthcare Summit invite. And what's, I guess my question is, what is the summit? Is it an official action of Curry County, or is it a private non-governmental organization putting this on, or is Tony Vowdy putting this on?
I'm not
I had
sure.
some questions as to why is the Board of Commissioners inviting people to a function if it's not a county function, et cetera. So or if it is, how is it a county function? What do we do to make it a county function? Is Tony running it? Those kind of things. I know Connie mentioned Tony's name. So I'm just wondering what it is, who's doing it, what is the county's role in it, besides just inviting people to come to it. It almost gives the idea that it is our activity, and I'm wondering if it is or not. So,
Quite frankly, this meeting is the first I heard of it. So,
okay.
Connie, maybe you can answer those
Well, I
questions.
had mentioned the VA Healthcare Summit a while ago. We put one on about 2 years ago. This is a follow-up to that.
Who is we, I guess, is the question.
Okay, that would be a group of veterans and myself.
Okay.
I also sit on 2 boards. I don't know if you know that the VA has what they call a mental health executive council, and I am the community ambassador for that. So in my work with the VA, I reached out to them after the 2014 VA Healthcare Reform Act to put together an event that brought all stakeholders together on behalf of the VA, but on behalf of the veterans community. What came from that was something very important, and I want to talk a little bit about economic development because that was really fundamentally a piece of the puzzle. The 2 anchor institutions in a community for economic development are your health care network and your college. A veteran who has his or her post 9/11 GI educational benefits, of course the college would benefit to the tune of $80,000 positive economic impact every time a veteran uses his or her post 9/11 GI educational benefits. Now what it does for our healthcare system is put more invoices into that healthcare system, and we did this working with all 3 mayors, County Commissioner Susan Brown, and they came out. It was a huge success. We signed contracts with the VA. The VA we made our issues known to the VA. The VA provided 2 more staff members for mental health here, and we continue to build those relationships. And so this is a relationship building puzzle. I do chair now the Curry Community Health Mental Health Advisory and Addictions Board. We do have Curry Community Health as the lead, I guess you could say, community partner. But the initiative was citizen-driven, veteran and family members. 26.7% of our county's population are veterans, and then we talk about the family members, even in associated one person with a veteran. It tells you how huge our veterans population along with their families are. So it is an initiative that is citizen driven. We're just asking for the county to participate, and what we're trying to do is make sure that we have the state involved, and there's only one place. Well, the cities already agreed to do the same kind of letter. They supported it. They saw the benefits. Was important in a huge way for our veterans to be allowed to get their health care locally. It actually came at a time when Curry Community Health, Curry Health Network was having financial difficulties and cash flow problems. So one of the things that we worked out right from the get-go was making sure that the VA promised no slow pay, and we work out the nuts and bolts of things, and it takes an objective group of people to come together and navigate these opportunities.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think so if I've been trying to listen very carefully. This will be happening at SWAC, and it'll be happening on September 21st, and that's the Brookings campus, is that correct?
That's the Curry campus.
The Curry, so Brookings, not in
So
Coos.
Brookings, yes.
Okay, good. And then, and I've, done other things besides just be county council. I've been on, essentially nonprofits, and we had I can't remember what we called them, but they were basically gatherings, and as the board of the nonprofit, the job was to go out and to get essentially vendors. In our case it was, the Forest Service and different people, and they would each have there would be a gathering, people would come, there'd be a keynote speaker, and then if they needed a resource, they would go to one table or another, and things like that. I'm just trying to get, this letter makes it look like it is a county function, a county thing, but it's more like, will Tony have a table there? Will he, I mean, what will Tony's role be there at all, if any, or how does the county fit or play into this is the question.
No, I've talked to, per your recommendation and logical effort, got him involved, and so I think he is definitely on board. I've never spoke for the board. Be absolutely thrilled if you could make either one of these meetings. I think it was a workshop about 3 weeks ago. Mrs. Hunter, you mentioned both the September 10th and the September 21st meeting, so I remember well. And I also referenced that your efforts are getting incredibly good attention around the state, which is going to help us a lot. So I appreciate that, and you mentioned stakeholders, and I think that those people are coming on board and get the word out to the public. There's just real, and your work with the Veterans VA Administrator, Whitmer, we'll have him here, and that's huge for Curry County as well.
Let's just cut to the chase, and we could change this letter just a little bit to say that in this first paragraph, we're talking about this correspondence is a formal invitation from the Curry County Board of Commissioners to invite you to the VA Healthcare Summit to be held, yada, 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 and this summit will be put on by your group, but the commissioners are inviting you to attend. It's not.
I think, I don't have an issue with the commissioners inviting the named speakers or the named addressees to come down, but to me it'd be more clear if we did have some, just as you said, Commissioner Gold, the language that would clarify there will be an event in Curry County, and as the commissioners we think it's good and we'd like you to come, but just to kind of allow the reader to understand that, for instance, it won't be staffed by county personnel. It's not going to be a county product that is prepared and presented at this meeting.
This event will be presented
Okay.
by,
Fair
and
enough.
then you name the group.
All right. Well,
And-
that makes sense, but
Connie?
it just,
May I also suggest that this be considered a community partnership because of just the relationships that are being built. We're going to have the VA as a community partner, Curry Community Health, which of course that is beyond the Addictions and Advisory Board. It's also part of the Oregon Health Authority responsibilities that end up at the County Health Authority. And I'll make sure that you get a copy of this, which is gets into the state health improvement, suicide prevention efforts, and there's a piece of that that's in there that's really important. So that, the county has Curry Community Health doing their county health authority pieces of the puzzle. So in a way, it's still a part of what the county's objectives are. So I would suggest maybe even using the terminology of community partnership, and there are no other obligations or responsibilities or financial commitments beyond anything that we've, that was never a piece of the puzzle, those things.
Yeah, just as long as we're clear on who the presenters are, and we're fine with saying, hey, we endorse this and would like you to come, but
I always
we're not-
appreciate those
we're not doing
distinctions.
the presentations
Absolutely.
or the planning or any of that. Commissioner Boyce?
Yeah, just a moment ago, I don't know if you don't realize you cut me off again. So I was working to get
I cut
complete.
you off when I
Just a
missed
minute
that.
ago, when I was right in the middle of me referencing the VA administrator, you're right on the edge of your seat. So what I'm going to ask you to do is I want to know or believe that you're at least politely interested in what I have to say so we can get some work done.
Fine.
Maybe you don't realize
No,
it,
I
but
didn't
thank
realize
you.
it. I apologize if I cut you off. I sincerely didn't think I did.
Thank
so.
you.
so Commissioner Boyce, you have reached out to Tony about it, because again, we also have our own veterans department here, and I'd like to make sure that everything's coordinated with them. And it wasn't clear from this that it was, other than Connie did say we have them here.
Administrator Schroeder?
I have reached out to Tony and asked him the question because I obviously didn't know anything or much about this. Obviously, I know there's a group. I don't know the name of your group, but I know there's a group that's doing this. I asked Tony what his involvement was, and he said he would be attending, but and be there to answer questions. But he's not doing any presentations or setting up a table or anything like that. But he will be attending the summit, you know. But it's not, again, it's not sponsored by the county. But Tony will be there.
So what name is the group that's organizing this?
The Eternal Freedom Foundation of America, which is a nonprofit that was started when my nephew was killed in Iraq. The founding, person that founded the organization was Jack Daggett, who's the father of my nephew Kyle, and he was also a founding board member of the Make-A-Wish Foundation. So it's a private foundation, family-based, and my nephew's death benefits are the primary piece of the puzzle for our trust.
There's a lot of honor in this.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Councilor Huddle.
Connie, would you like to review this? We'll probably, between Huddle and I, we will rewrite this. Would you like to review it before we send it to them, or do you trust us to do it appropriately?
I would really appreciate that, and I actually found some of a couple of typos that were mine, and so I have an apology here that says I'm the queen of typos, so thank you for making the distinctions that need to be made. It's a fantastic event. We did a lot for veterans in the first one, and we look to do even more, really reaching out to have that VA pilot program. So that could bring not only recognition but solutions to the fact that we are the county with the highest suicide rate among our veterans in the state of Oregon, and Oregon is 8th in the country.
Council Huddle?
And Connie Hunter, again, thank you for all your work in the community, and I don't mean to be a real pain in the neck, but hopefully, can you tell us the time that this will start on September 21st at the Brookings campus of SWAC?
And I want to make sure that you get a copy of this flyer that I put out, and it starts at 9 a.m., but from 9 a.m. until 10 a.m. we have listening sessions scheduled. That means Dr. Kevin Borgo will lead the men's listening session. The women's listening session will be led by Oregon Department of Veterans Affairs Women's Coordinator, Elizabeth Estabrooks, and then at about 10:15 we're going to have a very special blessing, and at 10:30 we kick off with the presentations. And the agenda will be published as soon as I get one more name from the VA, but we're going to be able to include not only Director Dave Whitmer, who's going to roll out the importance of the VA Mission Acts, which actually reverses the idea that the VA can actually be a one-size-fits-all organization and puts opportunities for community providers to fill in those gaps in care, and that's what we're trying to do.
So bottom line, Connie, you're okay if Council Huddle and
Absolutely.
Administrator Schroeder go over it and make sure?
And is that the consensus of the board? They'd be willing to sign such a letter of support?
I'm fine with it.
Okay.
See what it
Thank
We
you.
we need to see the
All right.
letter
Very
first,
good.
of course.
Okay.
but, Commissioner Boyce?
Thank you, and also represent your willingness there to clarify through just a one or two sentences. I think was good, but I wanted the copy to go to Mrs. Hunter. Before.
Yeah, we'll send it
Okay,
back.
thank you.
Yes.
I didn't hear her respond to that, so that would.
My apology.
Thank you.
Of course, it's wonderful, and I have to tell you that working with County Administrator Schroeder through this process has been very encouraging, and thank you all for your encouragement. And you're not a pain. You're doing your job.
Thank you.
Council Huddle. So
Okay.
I'm going to walk over and give my typo corrections to County Administrator.
All right.
Thank you
sorry,
all.
Madam Chair, but it was something that I wanted to just kind of
No, that's good.
follow up on. Thank
I
you.
appreciate that.
All right.
Okay, this meeting is going to be recessed until 1 p.m. We will be having public hearings, and then at 2 p.m. there will be an executive session for negotiations. Thank you. Too much stress in my life. We'd like to come out of recess for our commissioners meeting, and we're coming back to talk about public hearings, but before we do that, we're going to have a little bit of a presentation here for the ambulance district. So I'm just going to read this. The Port Orford Community Ambulance was incorporated as a nonprofit organization in April of 1954. Geez, that's almost as old as I am. Previous to that, it is thought to have existed for an undetermined amount of time, staffed by a small group of volunteers dedicated to the timely transport of people in need of emergency care. Since its incorporation, it has been a volunteer organization that has remained dedicated to the emergent transportation and en route care of North County residents. For more than 60 years, volunteers from all walks of life have served our community. Retirees, school teachers, business owners, firefighters, nurses, bus drivers, young people, seniors, and more have selflessly worked against all odds to provide the highest level of care possible, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. These amazing men and women work together day after day, night after night, on holidays, and sometimes in unbelievable weather conditions, responding to calls. Their families, friends, and our communities, as well as a whole, accepted the fact that at any moment the volunteers might dash out with only a word or two, never knowing when or if they would return. There are certainly more than 100 men and women who have served as EMS volunteers for the North Curry County Ambulance Service Area, more than 400 square miles. It is impossible to name them all. Some have passed away, some have left the area. All served with pride, honor, dedication, with commitment to the health and safety of our community. We have been privileged to work as a team with other emergency services agencies, including Port Orford Police, Port Orford Sixes, Langlois, and Gold Beach Volunteer Fire Departments, Curry County Sheriff's Office, Coos Forest Protection Agency, Oregon State Police, Calor Life Flight, Bay Cities Ambulance, and Myrtle Point Ambulance. We will always be grateful for their unfailing support. As a member of our community, a simple thank you to all of those who have served and sacrificed is not enough. It has been an incredible honor to be part of such a dedicated volunteer agency that has served for so long. To our brothers and sisters who continue to serve our communities and who will serve us in the future, thank you and be safe. And this was respectfully submitted by Gail Wilcox. Is Gail here today? We want to give you a certificate here from the county to your volunteers. And I don't know whether you're the person to get this. Curry County is hereby recognizing the Port Orford Community Ambulance Association. So we're going to give both of those. Thank you so much for your service.
Port Orford has it together, man.
Okay, so we're going to move on with the public hearings. First of all, we've got our ambulance service area public hearing. Do we have any public comments or any of the public that want to speak? Yes.
I think it'd be appropriate to start with the staff report first and then open for public comments, if that's okay.
Oh, that's just fine. That's why we've got him here. Keep
Okay.
me in line. So we're going to start with our staff report.
And Madam Chair, so the staff report is found in your package on, well, I don't know if we do pages anymore, but the staff report, there's a memorandum where the public hearing is on 3 items under our ambulance service area ordinance. The 3 items that we're doing is a ordinance to avoid interruption of service, and this will be effective retroactively because the Port Orford Community Ambulance has been using the assistance, I think, of Calor Life Flight since earlier in the year, and we want to make everything official. And so we'll be doing a retroactively effective ordinance there. That will be the first step. And then the second step will be to transfer. Both organizations have asked for a transfer from of the franchise. We have 3 different ambulance service areas in the county, as you talked about in the recognition for Port Orford Community Ambulance. But Port Orford Community Ambulance had Area 1, which is north, and CalOR had Area 2 and 3, which is central and south. And the action then is to transfer Area 1 service to CalOR, and there's materials in your packet to do so. CalOR had to fill out an application. The application was accompanied by materials that talked about their technical abilities and resources and financials. Their financials are confidential, but there is a cover memo in your packet from the county accountant who has reviewed them and found them to be sufficient for purposes of providing the services to Area 1. All the materials were reviewed by our Ambulance Service Area Committee, and they have also provided a favorable recommendation on the transfer. And then lastly, our typical franchise is for 5 years, but our code allows the board, if it's in the interest of the public, for necessity, to extend the franchises either for a longer or make the franchises for a shorter period. CalOR, because providing services to the Service Area 1 will require additional commitment of resources and capital, they are requesting and need a longer franchise period to recoup the capital investment in all 3 franchises. So that's the third action. So, and that also has been reviewed by the Ambulance Service Advisory Committee, and they also favorably recommended extending the terms of each franchise then to CalOR. So really that's all I had. I know there's members of CalOR and Port Orford Community Ambulance here if you wanted to hear from them. And then if the public has any questions or any input, this would be a good time for them to open the public hearing and take that comment.
Okay.
And I don't know, I see Mr. Schroeder over there. Did you have anything to add to that at all? Okay.
Excellent summary.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, did any of you want to speak to these issues? I know Dan Bratton is here. Do you want to speak just briefly?
Thank you, Commissioners, and I want to first echo the recognition you just gave to Port Orford, and we've been doing this for 20 years. They've been doing it a lot longer than we have, but I can tell you that they've done a masterful job of serving that community. The Port Orford area, ASA 1, is a little unique in that there's not enough calls to really obviously make a full-time staff service work, and it's too many calls really for volunteers, and so they've just done a great job making that work. They've asked us to take it over, and we've agreed to do that. We're also going to be purchasing their equipment and supplies from them, and we'll be making that happen, assuming we get a favorable decision today. I think, just so you know, we'll have the entire county. This will add a 5th ambulance to our existing 4 that we have on for ASA 3 and ASA 2. And we've been working a lot in the past few weeks, kind of looking at how we're going to staff that. We do see some advantages to us. Examples would be transfers, say, from Curry General to Bay Area Hospital, where we do a transfer in the middle of the night. Today we're going up, say, to Coos Bay. We can start moving rigs back and forth by having that 5th ambulance in Port Orford. We do see some real advantages to that, and I think it'll take us a little time to kind of work out all the details, but we've been doing and helping them a lot. But since I think the last week in June, we've been staffing up there, and so and finding working our way through that. So happy to answer any questions you have, but we're looking forward to taking it over and ready to do so.
Okay. Anybody have any questions? Commissioner Boyce?
Thanks, Madam Chair. It just feels like the county's coming together a little bit, even if it's emergency services or the ambulance. And,
yeah.
Just really happy that your company has stepped in, and I think it's going to be wonderful for North County.
Very good.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any other comments, especially from the public, if you have any comments?
I would just like to say I have been a customer of the Port Orford ambulance, and I had no idea they were volunteers, and they did a super fantastic job. I am hopefully living proof, but anyway.
Well, at least you're living.
Yeah,
that's important. Okay. So hearing no other public comments, let's go ahead with some motions to take care of.
Oh, there is a hand up.
Oh, I didn't see you. I'm sorry.
That's okay, Commissioner.
You were just so tiny.
We're
I
in
couldn't
trouble
see you.
now.
No, I'm Jim Watson. I sit as the chairperson for the ASA committee from Brookings. And we did recommend to approve the extensions after reviewing them, so I just wanted to, state that to you, the commissioners, that, we did look at this. We're members of all over the county, and we did approve that. And I would also like to say, great job, Gail, and the Port Orford folks. I'm, as you can see, I'm the fire chief of the city of Brookings, so I'm involved with emergency service. I worked for CalOR at one time years ago, and I've always admired what Port Orford Ambulance Service has done up there. And now that we're going to have continue with quality care with CalOR Lifeline in all of the ASAs, so that's all I had.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
Just to let the commission know, the ASA committee will be meeting in, I don't have the date in front of me, but they'll be meeting once or twice a year. Our next meeting will be in February to review the service. We're going to get reports back from Dan concerning response times and number of calls and stuff, and we'll have that committee, continue to meet that. It has kind of fallen off the turnip truck in the last few years. We vow to continue that committee on to do reviews.
Okay.
And within your packet are the draft minutes from the previous meeting that we had that made these recommendations. Those minutes will be approved at the February meeting, but this is clearly an indication of their intent to make the recommendation for that.
Good. I'm glad we're moving forward on this issue. So I'd like to entertain some motions. Would you?
So the first motion, you'd be motion to approve assignment of ASA 1 to Cal Life Flight retroactively effective June 1st, 18 to avoid interruption of service per County Ordinance 2-01-170.
Question? Were we going to consolidate into one motion, or how did you?
Well, you have three orders. We had one hearing to give you all the information you needed to make the three decisions, but they're three separate actions, please.
I just saw three separate ARS slips. I didn't.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we need a motion to the effect of what?
I think what Clark Schroeder said, yep.
Okay, so do I have a motion to that effect?
Motion to that effect, Chair.
Second, Madam Chair.
Any further discussion? Okay, call for the question.
Aye.
Aye. So you're official, almost.
That's one item. There's two more.
Right. Yeah. So the motion 2, we would seek a motion to approve transfer franchise for ASA 1 from POCA to COLF per county ordinance in 2.01-150.
Do I have a motion to that effect?
Somebody's not mic'd up.
Sorry.
Me.
Thanks.
Sorry.
Detail.
Yeah, I didn't think he voted on that last one.
Good.
So, Madam Chair, I'll move that, as outlined by Administrator Schroeder on the second part of the ASA agreement here.
Do I have a second?
Order.
Yeah, second, if you just with a clarification, that was code 2.01.150?
Yes.
Okay.
That should be the transfer.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. This is 2.01.150 is the transfer
Okay.
ordinance.
I'll second that.
Okay. Any further discussion? Call for the question.
Aye.
Aye. We're almost there.
Third motion, staff would seek a motion to approve extension of franchise for ASA 1, ASA 2, and ASA 3 for an additional 5 years, each franchise to expire on June 30th, 2027.
So moved, Madam Chair.
Second?
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? Call for the question?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that takes care of our first public hearing.
Okay. Yep.
The
Thank you very
second-
much.
Congratulations.
Thank
Thank
you.
you all.
And thank you for your service, Port Orford volunteers. That's
Yeah.
a long time. You don't look old enough to have volunteered that long.
We are.
Oh, there's one of the youngsters back there. Okay, so the second public hearing is to amend Curry County zoning ordinance sections of Title 3, 7, and 4 related to accessory dwelling units, ADUs. So, Carolyn Johnson.
Thank you. Carolyn Johnson, Community Development Director. I'm happy to say that I'm back before you to talk about accessory dwelling units. You talked about this about a year year and a half ago when the board authorized us to amend the zoning code to allow these in all residential areas of the county with a conditional use permit. That's kind of a long process to go through, but it was a workable process that many folks use for different things that they want to do in the county related to land use. Accessory dwelling units were added to the things that you could do at that time. Last year, actually it was earlier this year, the state of Oregon put out some new regulations saying that counties and cities needed to adopt accessory dwelling unit ordinances and allow them by right, which means you wouldn't have to go through that long planning process to get you to an accessory dwelling unit. So that meant that we needed to take another look at our zoning code and what we had done and amend it so that these things could now be authorized by right rather than having to go through a more lengthy process, which is why this is in front of you today. What we're looking at is amending sections of 5 land use districts that allow residential uses to include accessory dwelling units as permitted uses that are allowed outright, which means you can come in and get a building permit for it. So the other thing that we're asking you to do is take a look at the conditional use permit section, which essentially needs to be rewritten to take out the accessory dwelling units because we're no longer going to require it. And then the last piece is to add some standards on how you develop these accessory dwelling units. The Planning Commission worked some time on this, and they went through kind of a thoughtful process and really came to some conclusions on what would be best and how these could be operational for the county with an eye really on health and safety. Some of the new things that they asked for and we're recommending that you include is a requirement that you be able to show an address on these units so that if you have an emergency, the responders will know where to go, things like that. And that's all outlined in here, and I can answer any questions that you might have on the specific language. What's interesting is that when the legislature came up with this mandate to require these accessory dwelling units as outright permitted uses, they limited them to areas within the urban growth boundary. Well, that's good for folks within the urban growth boundary, but if you're outside the urban growth boundary, say in a rural residential area, you cannot partake in this process of getting an accessory dwelling unit. I spent quite a bit of time talking to DLCD about this, and they were fairly resolute that this is the way the language is written and this is the way it needs to be, but that there's going to be some kind of a working group of legislators talking about this, and hopefully at the next legislative session amending their bill. I think it was called Senate Bill 1051, to allow these accessory dwelling units in rural residential areas. So that's really the long and short of it. We meaning myself and the Planning Commission, we're not the only ones who've spent time on this. The Board of Realtors, I see Brett here's today, and his company with RE/MAX. I met with them and some of his crew to go over this with them, and there's a great interest in the real estate community in these because folks are asking for this kind of a product. And Georgia Nolan has been working with the task force group on the housing study that's coming up, and I know she's here to share her thoughts as well. So I see a real groundswell of support by the community, and I think that this is really the best way we can address it. We're required to address it pursuant to these state requirements. So I encourage you to adopt this ordinance, and I'm here if you have any questions.
Okay. We'll open this up for any questions first from the commissioners. Commissioner Huxley?
I have a question for Carolyn. Are
Yes.
you sure the ordinance number is right that's shown here? I just think we already have one that's 1701. And this was done, this began quite a while ago. I thought that had something to do with the county administrator.
Yep, that's wrong. It was,
Okay.
yeah, sorry about that. We can fix that.
I have a question for John Jesuit. John Jesuit, do you assign the ordinance numbers after they're adopted, after the meeting, and you have a series for that? So I think if we just don't have the 1701 on there, and that's just a ministerial action by staff to assign, ordinance numbers get assigned after you adopt them.
I agree, just like order numbers or anything.
So we
But
can...
It rang too, it was familiar.
So it would just, so we would just amend it to exclude that numeration.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions from the commissioners? Okay, we're open for public comment now. Georgia Nellwin, come on up.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, thank you. I wrote this down because I wasn't sure if I would be here, but first of all, I do want to thank Carolyn Johnson and the Planning Commission for working on this. It's been a while coming. I'm Georgia Nowlin, 18526, get my address right, Tetley Road, Brookings. And I'm speaking here in favor of the zoning ordinance amendment, and to say also that it does not go far enough. It does not give the same outright permitted use for ADUs in rural residential zones outside the urban growth boundary. Now, this is not a county oversight, as Carolyn mentioned, but a state accommodation to special interest groups that discriminates against rural residents. There's no reason to not allow ADUs as an outright permitted use for rural residential zones, subject to certain criteria and standards, just like the other residential zones. When Senate Bill 1051 was passed in 2017 during the Oregon legislative session, it stated that a county with a population greater than 15,000 shall allow in areas zoned for detached single-family dwellings the development of at least one accessory dwelling unit for each detached single-family dwelling. Nothing about urban growth boundaries. However, that changed this year with House Bill 4031, which added within urban growth boundary, so that it now reads, a county with a population greater than 15,000 shall allow in areas within the urban growth boundary that are zoned for detached single-family dwellings, etc. As I mentioned, this is a deliberate move against rural residents outside the urban growth boundary by legislation at the state level. It needs to be fixed at that level, and I realize there's a working group on it, but I think we all need to know about this so that there will be a fix. Allowing ADUs through this zoning ordinance amendment will help to address our lack of housing, boost economic development, and help seniors have a better quality of life and stay in their homes longer. They can have family or caregivers living close but separate. A better quality of life, more housing, and more income. The benefits of allowing ADUs shouldn't be restricted to only those living inside an urban growth boundary, but available to all rural residents living in residential zones. Please pass this zoning ordinance amendment, but recognize there's more to be done. Thank you.
Thank you, Georgia. I think that affects a whole lot of people in our county. So.
Hey.
We know some, don't we?
Yes, me included.
Very much.
Yes, me too.
Any other public comments on this issue? Do you want to come up? You must be Brett. By the way, you didn't need to fill one of these out.
Oh, good.
Okay.
Thank you, County Commissioners. As this morning, my name is Brett Curtis. I've been in Curry County for several years, have a couple real estate offices in Harbor and Brookings, and I stand before you in favor of ADUs. Much like what Georgia said, it's not enough, but it's a start. We interact with people daily, and I'm not exaggerating, that have challenges that could be met with a secondary dwelling. We have some housing issues. Inventory is low. People looking for a place to rent. The prices for rental prices have gone up significantly. I don't have a number in my head, but something that used to rent for $650 3 years ago is arguably $1,100 or more today, and that's significant. And we have people come in every day from at both of our offices and in my dialogue with other real estate professionals and we're struggling to meet that need. ADUs is a great fix. It's it's something that where someone could take advantage of this as soon as it's passed and within 30 to 90 days have an additional dwelling on their property. My concern is that R1, R2, R3 lots oftentimes are too small to legitimately put a second dwelling. So the need, and where I see the biggest benefit is in the RR zoned properties where you're on a 5-acre piece of property, 10 or 20, and having a separate dwelling that you could rent or for family is more ideal and less cumbersome on the area as opposed to in a small or in smaller lot sizes in the middle of town where it could be more cumbersome and more difficult. So I echo what George is saying, that we as commissioners or you as commissioners and us as community members need to really focus on influencing at the state level to get this available at the RR zones. Thank you.
Thank you. Carolyn, can I just ask you one question?
Well, I'd also like to echo how well Carolyn has done. She did come down to our offices, speak to all of our staff, took a lot of tough questions, so we appreciate her efforts.
Good. So Carolyn, on a county level, is it possible for us to okay ADUs in the unincorporated areas or not? Does it have to be state coming down and telling us we can do it?
Yes and no. And let me start with the yes. The yes is there are some unincorporated areas where you can do these, and I failed to bring that up, and Carl, thank you for pointing it out to me. There are areas, Nasika Beach, Harbor, Agnes, Langlois areas. Those areas have a zone called RCR, Rural Community Residential. And technically they are not in an urban growth boundary. However, in my conferral with DLCD, they pointed out some specific language in the OARs that would allow secondary dwelling units, accessory dwelling units in those rural communities, subject to certain findings. Things like you have to make sure you have water, you have to make sure you have access, you have to make sure you have sewer, basic things like that. And so they were comfortable with us including that particular zoning district. I think I mentioned earlier there were 5 of them, 4 or 5 of them. Mm-hmm. This was one of them. So they are allowed in those unincorporated communities, but they are not allowed, the no answer is no, they're not allowed in the rural residential areas at this time.
If you put in some stipulation that there had to be water available and sewer available, would it be possible to do that?
I tried. I have probably half a dozen emails back and forth with Dave Perry at DLCD. He went back to 2 people that helped put this together, some of his other staff, and they were fairly firm that at this time, until the legislature makes the change to allow accessory dwelling units outside the urban growth boundaries, exclusive of the unincorporated areas, I'll set those aside, like those little townships, we were not to include them as allowed as an outright use in our code.
I'll have to tell you, I know of several that already are in existence in the unincorporated areas.
Sure.
I'm not here to tattletale, but that's happening already.
Right.
Commissioner Boyce?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, it's going to take a legislative fix, and as you pointed out, there definitely seems to be bias between the rural and the urban, and they talk a good talk about helping rural areas, but short of, you know, the urban folks greatly outnumber us in representation in Salem as well, and we just don't get much veneer and haven't over the last almost 40 years to identify some of these problems and get some relaxed decisions on this. And here we are starving for housing, and that's one area we just don't seem to get a lot of boost. So
sounds like
keep trying.
Commissioner Boyce, you may be volunteering for the working group.
You know, if I could sit down with these folks here and add to this ordinance that you've put forth, and you know, we can get help from other counties. You know, they're struggling with the same things as you know, and it is really important. So yeah, I'll be there.
Okay, thank you.
If I get recruited.
Okay, Carl King?
Carl King, Nasika Beach. I'm in one of those commercial residential areas that will be covered by this. I've come from communities that have struggled with how to keep people in their homes as they age and become empty nesters. And this is, for a rural area, the perfect solution for that. I happen to be blessed, and I bought the property I bought because it had a separate dwelling unit on my 3 acres in addition to the main house, so that I'm able to have a family member in the cottage next to me. But what this does is it permits and provides for somebody who no longer needs or no longer can care for a large home to build a accessory dwelling unit, move into it, and make the larger building available for a family to rent. Or again, to have a family member who needs help live next to, your ordinance allows you to have I think an RV on your property for 6 months if somebody needs special care. That doesn't help a lot of people who have long-term illnesses. But this is a step in the right direction. I've sat through many of the hearings and meetings downstairs with the Planning Commission when they dealt with this. As Carolyn said, a lot of time and effort went into it. And it's the first step, and it's a very good first step, because it will create housing that will provide housing for the professionals and the teachers and the others that we need to move into Curry County to give us the infrastructure and places that we need to attract new people to come in and build businesses and to work here. So I urge you to vote yes.
Okay, any other public input?
I do have a letter here that was dropped off earlier from Jim Green. Jim Green, broker of Century 21, and it's signed by all of his, or a bunch of his people, basically reiterating the same points concerning the need and the desire to have this, and also wants it in rural residential. So we'll just enter that in the record. You can pass that down to JJ if you want.
I think we're ready to get a motion on this issue.
Madam Chair.
Could I provide one more comment? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Given that a lot of folks may be watching this ultimately on YouTube or TV, I do want to point out that in the rural residential areas, the county does have a mechanism called a guest house. You can build no kitchen, a 500 square foot spot that you can put a bed in it, you can sleep in it, but you can't put a kitchen or a bathroom in it. So we do get calls about those too, and we've developed a handout that identifies where these ADUs could be located once you adopt it, and what the concept of a guest house is too. So I just wanted to point out for those folks in the RR districts that there is some relief, but not quite as good as the ADUs.
Well, you just educated me. I didn't know there couldn't be a bathroom. Commissioner Huxley?
When we do get to the motion, how detailed do you want this, or how minimal can we have it or state it
I would just
so it suffices?
recommend that you move to adopt the ordinance but to strike the ordinance number on it for staff to fill out later. And
as worded then?
As worded,
okay.
yes.
Okay.
So do I have a motion on the floor?
I would motion to approve the draft ordinance excluding the ordinance number as worded.
I have a second.
Second.
Any further discussion? Call for the question.
Aye.
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 You're
Thank you.
almost home, but not there yet. Okay, our next public hearing is to consider the annexation of Pelican Bay Heights water system into Harbor Water Public Utility District.
And so that's my item, Madam Chair. I'll just give a brief staff report, then you can open the public hearing. This item is number 15 on your agenda. And essentially, with this item, this is an annexation to a district. And when preparing the public hearing on this, staff looked at two different sets of state laws. One is Oregon State Law, Chapter 198. The other is Oregon Revised Statute, Chapter 261. 261 is specific to water districts. 198 is districts in general. Oregon Chapter 198 requires a hearing to happen within 30 and 50 days of the petition. So the petition was received on July 10th, and so this hearing today, this hearing today is between 30 and 50 days. ORS 261 says the hearing must be between 60 and 90 days. So we have noticed another hearing date for September 19th. The purpose of both of these hearings is to take testimony on properties to be included in the district. So when you look at your agenda packet, number 15, you can see the petition, you can see the other items, but if you scroll down to page, you'll see the petition. It has what is proposed. It has the signatures of Jan Amlin, who was the petition gatherer and witness. And then you have also a separate petition signed by the Pelican Bay Board of Commissioners itself, a resolution. And then you have a map which shows, you have to scroll all the way down after all the signatures. There's a legal definition on page 18, Exhibit B, and then on page 20 you see the map of the lots to be included. The idea for today, again, is to have the Board of Commissioners take testimony on whether properties want to be included or excluded from the proposed annexed area. So really that's the only staff report I have, and if you have any questions then it would be to open the public hearing.
Okay. I'd like to open this public hearing.
Hi. My name is Jan Amblin, and I am the petitioner to have the annexation of Pelican Bay Heights water annexed into harbor water. First of all, I would like to make a comment that this comes as a complete, total shock to me that there needs to be a second hearing. I was told when I submitted the application that we couldn't do the hearing in July, but we had to postpone it until August, and this is the first I've heard that there now needs to be a second hearing. I'm really quite disappointed in that. I've worked very hard. I am the owner of Pelican Bay Heights water system, and I really need to get out of it. I'm tired of reading meters. I'm tired of climbing hills and finding strange objects in water meter boxes. I've been scared more than once by snakes, rats, mice, spiders, and I'm just done with it. There's only 22 homes that are currently within the water system, and I have had absolutely no negative comments from any of my property owners right now. They're all very excited about becoming part of harbor water. Pelican Bay is state regulated both for rate and for service, and the state of Oregon set the rates that I have to charge my customers for the water. I purchase the water from harbor water, pump it up to a pump station, and then from a distribution system it goes on to the individual homes. Unfortunately, the state said that I had to make a profit, and even though my profit amounts to about $1.50 a year, the rates that I have to charge are about 3 times what harbor water charges for the water that they charge their current customers. So I know that the people within Pelican Bay are very anxious to get out from under what the state has mandated I have to charge them and become part of harbor water.
Sounds like a win-win to me.
It is.
Okay, do we have any other public comment? Commissioner
Well,
Huxley.
the public comments first, and then I'll ask.
Hey, good afternoon. My name is John Murphy. I live at 15659 over Benham Lane in Pelican Heights. It's a Brookings Dress. My wife and I own 2 properties, or 2 parcels in the development. One has our home. It's a year-round home. The other is an undeveloped lot that's immediately adjacent to us. As Jan says, we are very excited about moving this system over into harbor to get exactly the same water that we've been getting for the last several years at a significantly reduced price. And we have provided a letter of supporting or requesting your support previously, and I'll just reiterate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Question? Commissioner Huxley.
And I'm not sure who the question is for. You know, I live on Pelican Bay Drive, just below, I'm adjacent below, but adjoined to Upper Benham Lane. And we know the empty water hydrants and 20, years ago, and what went on was, you could write a book, So does it, you said there's about 20 lots? Is that, and I'm just looking at the map, it stops. I'm north.
Right, you're not within the
north
Pelican Bay
of
Heights water
that.
system. There's actually a total of 30 lots that were within the project itself. Right now there are 22 that are developed. There are 2 property owners, Mr. Murphy, and there's another gentleman, Bill Parrish. They have double lots. So if you look at that, you could say that there are 24 lots that are already currently within the water system. So that would leave 6 more lots that are vacant. I know 4 of them that are up for sale, so there's the potential for 4 more homes being put into the system, if those lots eventually sell. The other thing that I wanted to say, I forgot what I was going to say. Part of the proposal that Pelican Bay had to go through in order to be able to merge with Harbor Water. Harbor Water required that reservoirs be installed in Pelican Bay Heights. Harbor Water's system is all gravity fed, and so we couldn't just have them annex Pelican Bay, because at the time we did not have any reservoirs within our system. We pumped the water up to a point on the hill to a pump station and then out to the homes. Within the last year, I applied for and did receive a state-funded grant to install 2 10,000-gallon reservoirs higher up the hill. And so those reservoirs were completed as of April of this year. And so we have now met the requirements of Harbor Water so that we are a gravity-fed system.
So that's the infrastructure basically are the reservoirs.
Yeah, there is a pump station, and of course we have the distribution lines within the streets and within the subdivision itself. But yet we do also have the reservoirs.
Harbor Water is responsible for pumping up to the, or no?
Right now I'm still buying the water from Harbor Water. So I pump up to the reservoirs and then it flows back down.
From their source.
Right, and then it flows back down to the houses. And with the installation of the reservoirs, the fire hydrants are actually functionable now. We have up to 20,000 gallons that could be used for fire suppression. We still have them marked as out of service because right now Harbor Fire wants to come in and do a test and flush the hydrants to make sure they work when they're using my water that I just paid for, and I'm not real excited about that yet.
Commissioner Boyce?
I just want to read one sentence here that I think I understand, but just for maybe give you a chance to clarify. Pelican Bay is a small investor-owned, rate-regulated water utility located in Harbor. Currently, the company provides domestic, residential water service, 22 customers. Investor-owned, so I don't...
That's me. Huh? It's an LLC, and I'm the sole member.
Okay, thank you. That clarifies that.
Okay, so I'm looking for a motion.
And the motion, Madam Chair, as you know, Ms. Amlin was not pleased to hear, but we do need a second hearing on this, and that would be September 19th. So the motion would be to leave the record open and continue the hearing until September 19th.
And we can't do it any sooner?
No, because of the requirements under ORS Chapter 261, and I've been since...
Air just went out of the room.
Since meeting with Ms. Amlin, I'd been in contact with the legal counsel for the water district, and so I've been working with them on getting this process.
As in Harbor?
No, yes, thank you, the Harbor Water people utility district, yeah.
Okay, so do I have a motion to that effect? To continue this hearing?
I would motion, as we've discussed, to continue this topic as required by statute until, what was it,
September 19th.
19th.
I have a question.
Of course.
Sure.
How many commissioner meetings do you have in a month?
We have 2.
So would it be possible to have the meeting with the next commissioner meeting before September 19th so that this can be finalized prior, that would put it within your 60-day time period.
Let's do it.
There's a time,
Yeah.
it has to be between so many days. Are you
Right.
checking that now?
So-
It can't be
so-
less than and it can't be too many.
Right, the next one is September, so under 261, the hearing must be within 60 and 90 days of the July 10th petition submittal, and those dates are, again, so that's where September 19th is our date that fits within that.
That's the very first time we could have it, huh?
That's what, well, and then unfortunately you need to give notice between 25 and 15 days of the hearing and then 14 and 8 days of the hearing. So to allow for the notice, the required notice under ORS Chapter 261. So that's how the math works out.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Could we approve it today, subject to the work that he's doing with the harbor water and the legal process there?
I'm going to say no.
I'm so sorry we can't do it faster.
Bureaucracy.
I too am sorry we can't do it faster, but I can't change ORS 261. I had a lot of round and round with about the 198 and 261, but 261 is a principal act that governs people's utility districts like harbor water, and that's the one that controls the outcome here. I understand. It was included in the materials that was submitted in the packet. So, no, it was not sent to you, and so I personally will apologize to you for that.
Okay. I don't know whether we got a second for the motion. I know we got a motion.
You didn't get a second.
No second.
Do we get a second to that motion? I'll second that. Any further discussion? Yes.
I would just say, I'm sorry also, I've been, in similar situations just like that on the Napa area, on that, and I've learned more as far as some of the restrictions on you have to do it between this and between that, or you don't do it. And it doesn't make, it's not right or wrong, but that's the way the statutes read. So I'll support, Council Huddle. He's not doing that to give you a hard time.
Oh, no, not at all.
Not at all.
And I'm actually trying to look through my documents to see if I included Ms. Amlin on any of the emails that I sent out with that information. So I try to be inclusive in who I share information with when possible. So
I know the McMahons. I've known them for years.
Commissioner Boyce?
Is there anything else we can do to help you on this? Okay.
Maybe we could get you a stick for the snakes, or...
Slingshot.
Taking my 38.
Good for you. Good for you.
So we've got a motion and a second to continue the hearing. So any other discussion? Call for the question.
Aye.
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 Okay, thank you so much. Okay, that's the last of our hearings. We are now going to go into executive session, but before we do, let me just point out that everything that occurs in executive session needs to stay in executive session. We should not be divulging any information outside of the executive session. So, executive session under ORS 192.6602D to conduct deliberations with persons designated by the governing body to carry on labor negotiations. We're now coming out of executive session. Oh. I still have my mic.
I paused it, JJ, I believe.
If that is, she'll probably realize it and come back to pick it up.
We'll give
She
it
lives
to
where-
we'll give it to admin for lost and found.
We're somewhere close to where Carl is.
Yeah. We're wondering if that's her jacket over there.
That's what I'm guessing.
Okay.
It's recording.
Okay, we're now coming out of executive session. No decisions were made. And we're going into our regular meeting. It's now 3:33. I'm looking for a motion to adopt the strike manual and let it be made public.
Chair, I would motion to adopt the strike manual that is referenced privilege and confidential and make the exception recommended by County Council to make it public.
Do I have a second on that? I will second that. Any further discussion? Call for the question?
Aye.
Aye.
No.
Okay, second motion I'm looking for is for security measures that were discussed in the executive session to be carried out by staff. Do I have a motion to that effect?
I would motion that proceed as directed to Administrator Schroeder to do that.
Okay. Do I have a second? I will second that. Any further discussion? Call for the question?
Aye.
Aye.
No.
Okay. I'm looking for a motion for staff to present another offer to the union as discussed in executive session. Do I have a second?
I'll second, Madam Chair.
You got a motion first.
Whoops.
I thought you asked for a second.
Yeah,
Oh,
you
I'm
did.
sorry. I'm looking for a motion.
I'll so move, Madam Chair.
Okay. A second?
I'll second.
Okay. Discussion? Okay. Call for the question.
No.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. This ends our, yes.
If I could, Madam Chair, I have one follow-up from this morning's meeting. I'm handing out the VA Healthcare Summit 2.0 letter with the change that I've done that's acceptable by, I think, Connie, but essentially, if I could just read, and I believe this makes it more clear that this is asking these people to participate in an event, and we're inviting them to, but it basically says the Curry County Board of Commissioners has been informed that the Eternal Freedom Foundation will be hosting VA Healthcare Summit 2.0 on September 21st, starting at 9 a.m. at Southwestern Oregon Community College Brookings campus in Curry County, Oregon. We have been asked to lend our support by inviting you to attend, and we enthusiastically do so. Please come. Details are as follows and included in the accompanying materials. And then it talks about what it is. It's an opportunity for rural communities to discuss the highest community identified priorities for our Wild Rivers Coast veterans and policy program developers from a variety of, that kind of says what it's going to be, including some people from VA Roseburg, local providers. She mentioned Curry Community Behavioral Health. The meeting was convened with the intention of building whole person, whole community. Again, these phrases are
So the
subject
letter
to
is basically the
interpretation.
same except for the
It's-
first two paragraphs.
Yeah, and the first two paragraphs is essentially our explanation of our role in it, that it's not necessarily a county function. It's being put on by someone else. This is what the content will be, but we are certainly willing to lend our support by inviting these other dignitaries. So I think it's a fair partnership. It shows, you know, what our role is and that we're supporting it by reaching out to people that we have contacts with.
Okay.
And
Commissioner
I
Huxley?
only have one comment, and not to hold this up, but I'd like to see the authority for that 26.7%. Just for my education. They're saying that,
Oh.
okay, that's a very, very large number of people. And I hear these numbers talked about, and we just sort of assume, or, you know, that they're correct, but I'd like to see that.
Madam Chair?
Commissioner Boyce?
It is a very high number. The latest statistics I heard was just shy of 8,000. So the math works. 8,000 veterans that we have in Curry County. And so, yeah, that with the population of 23,000, it should be right at about 26%.
That's even higher.
It's about
So
34.7%.
that's another reason to question, yeah. So anyway, that's a...
So are you sure of those numbers?
That's the latest I heard, so I can't vouch for him, but I would not be a bit surprised if it was 7,000 or 8,000 veterans in,
Okay, so the
in Curry County.
26% isn't way high anyway.
I
so.
still would like to see it.
Okay.
Good job with it.
So that's the question for the board. Do you want me to bring this back? Do you want to adopt it now? And then Commissioner Huxley, will you just refrain from signing it until we provide that information? You know, just like to know, what do you want to do with it?
I will sign it, but I want...
Okay.
Here's a possible solution.
I just emailed Anthony Vowdy to ask him what our veteran percentage of
Perfect.
population
And
is.
then that would be really easy to just divide that number, and then we could sign it based on the correct number. How's that?
It, you know, I don't mean to, I don't know what, but it's entirely possible that there's different organizations could provide you with a different percentage, and it depends on who you ask. So again, so it's just a matter of what's a reasonable number, and we'll get the support for it. What I'm hearing is the board doesn't want to hold it up. The board's willing to vote to approve this. So is there a motion to send this letter and have the board sign it?
Yeah, you just might want to contact ODVA in Salem. They might be the best. I think Tony Valley would know too, but I think that he would get his reliable information from the Oregon Department of Veterans Affairs. I'm almost positive on that.
Would it be possible to wait until we get the correct percentage to sign this letter? I think we're all in favor of...
Madam Chair, I'm going to make a motion that we approve this now, subject to those figures.
I tell you what, this is in Word. How about if you approve it now, and that staff change, we will correct the number when we get the number.
Based on the correct number,
yeah,
okay.
From a reliable source.
Do we have a motion to approve the letter based on getting the correct number of, or percentage of veterans in the county?
Madam Chair, that's the motion I just made. Thank you.
I'll second that.
Okay. Any further discussion? Call for the question.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. That's all I had. Sorry about that.
Oh, it's nice to agree on something. Okay, this meeting is adjourned. We appreciate all those who stayed for the meeting. Thank you.
340.